We are the tribe from the north, we're brave and we're bold. Defeating our rivals never gets old. Making our way to the Big Sky Conference. Watch out, 'cause here comes the silver and gold. Whoa, whoa. This is Tubbs at the Club for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe from the North, Brave and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and your Vandal affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Hammond, and joining me today we have the Professor, Brian Marceau. How you doing, Brian?
Doing fantastic, man.
Good. And running the show from the shadows, producer Dammer. Dallas, how are you?
I am fantastic. For anybody that's watching this, the Anaheim Ducks, my beloved, most favorite team in the world, are currently wearing these reverse retro jerseys that are straight out of the 1990s.
Nice.
They are hideous, but I love them, and I'm doing great.
I just like how you've already bought one. That's impressive. Or is that from the 90s?
It's reverse retro, so it's styled from
a modern take on an old jersey.
Special for this season, yeah.
Kind of like what Idaho's doing with the yellow.
Exactly.
And our special guest, Colton Clark of the Lewiston Tribune. How are you, Colton?
Oh, I'm great. How are you guys? Good to see you again.
Good.
The Tubbs guys. Love being on with the Tubbs guys.
I know, it's been too long. We haven't had you on since, what, May?
Yeah, that sounds right. After there was some Golic news, if I recall, just how she was handling like coronavirus stuff early. Something like that. That's what rings a bell.
Yeah, and then we all were like, oh, we're not going to play football this fall.
Yeah, and then it was just a wave of
and yet here we are
stories,
talking football
all dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and talking about the same, with a little bit of the same stuff dashed in there they were talking about last time. I did a lot bit, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting show for you all today, because obviously the NAU game, for those of you that haven't heard, was pushed back to April 17th, so we are also not playing this weekend. So we have back-to-back bye weeks, so we'll get into that, a little bit of Vandal football, what's going on. This is good news, bad news, no news, and probably a little bit of random stuff around the Big Sky, what's going on, because it was kind of an interesting week last week. So we'll just get into it. We brought Colton on because Boatman's not here, and like we said, it's been too long. But ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky Cold Snack, an ultra-refreshing light beer born in majestic Big Sky country. Best part is when you crack a snack, you're giving back. Montucky Cold Snacks donates 8% of all profits back to local causes, even right here in Idaho, supporting organizations like the CW Hogs and the Idaho Food Bank. Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Montucky Cold Snacks, the light American lager for pow rippers, gator wranglers, pony riders, badass do-gooders. Visit MontuckyColdSnacks.com today to find out how to get some snacks. Around the bar, brought to you by Hughes River Expeditions. That got added in quickly. About as quickly as they keep jumping into the portal. Idaho men's basketball transfers. Another one bites the dust. I will let the basketball guys handle this.
Yeah, so everyone who listened to our postmortem, and if you haven't listened to our postmortem, jump back after this video and listen to. We projected, Dallas and I, that we were going to hear no coaching news because we presume there will be no coaching news to report. That's been the case so far, but we have had, similar to what happened at the end of 2 seasons ago during Verlin's last year, which was that was the first of our rough years. We've got a ton of transfers leaving the program thus far, and that I believe some of these started on Friday, and a couple more have trickled in this week. We've got 6 players who've declared they're going to leave University of Idaho for the transfer portal. Those include seniors Scott Blakeney, Javeri Christmas, and Damon Thacker. Now, all those guys took part in senior day festivities for Idaho, the ones that existed this year. So those 3 I wouldn't call exactly a shocker. They've got a freebie year of eligibility. Why not use it? We also have freshman Hunter Jack Madden has declared, junior AJ Youngman, and junior DeAndre Robinson. So that's our 6 so far. Haven't heard anything about our other seniors. Haven't heard anything about anyone else beyond those 6, but that's essentially half a roster if you factor in guys like Theon Bain and Chance Garvin, very likely not coming back, Chris.
Yeah. So as the football guy here, there might be some more football people here that this is news that should be interesting. So I'm just going to bounce some quick, uneducated questions off of you guys. Obviously, I know Thacker and Christmas and Blakeney, but like you said, for you, Hunter Jack Madden, AJ Youngman, DeAndre Robinson, are they technically even losses? What were their minutes even like?
Robinson was pretty good. Hunter Jack Madden had spurts, right?
Dallas, I'll let you take the story on this one.
Robinson was okay. Yeah, I didn't barely watch him at all. So yeah.
So I at least know that Colton's going to be the optimistic guy here, which is fantastic because I don't have anything nice to say about him. The way I put it is I looked up the PER of these players, the player efficiency rating. When you calibrate it to what the NBA breakouts are, you have Scott Blakeney, who comes in as third rotation option. You have rotation player, who is Thacker. You have fringe roster player, which is Robinson, and then the 46 minutes that AJ Youngman played. And then Javary Christmas and Hunter Jack Madden came in under player who won't stick in the NBA. Obviously, this is written for the NBA, so it's realistically saying player who doesn't deserve to be in the Big Sky. That's what their efficiency ratings were. So realistically, no, I don't think we lost a whole lot.
To move quick through those three, Scott Blakeney, I think, is going to land on on a strong team. Scott Blakeney can definitely make the roster of a solid team. We wish him the best. He was on 3 of the worst Vandal teams in the history of Vandal basketball. It's great. He's going to get a shot to close out his career somewhere else. The other guys don't really think they're a huge loss. We appreciate their time on Idaho, no question, but Hunter Jack Madden wouldn't have been a difference maker. DeAndre Robinson had a couple good games early, but it's essentially because he was shooting like 60% from 3, which just no one keeps that up. And the rest of the guys, Damon Thacker's a solid guy, but on a better team, he's probably a third or at best guard, probably 4th or 5th. So not really big losses, Chris. I think the good news for us is, again, we're happy they're on the team. We appreciate everyone's time as a Vandal, but if this team's going to get better, it's because we have new players coming in. We need those roster spots for new players. So that's my takeaway, Chris.
When is signing day for basketball? Have you guys followed any of the recruiting? Do we have anybody exciting coming in?
We have 2 guys signed so far, but we're in the dead period for recruiting for a while. So forgive me, Chris, forgive me, listeners. I don't have the day off the top of my head. We don't have any like big name guys. The 2 players we have signed didn't have offers from other D1 schools yet.
It's like May, right? It's like late in the school year, I think. I don't know.
We can expect to get recruiting news later on, of course, but at this point, Chris, to answer your question, we have 2 guys signed for the next class. So obviously the work for at this point, Coach Klaus and co. is to get more than 2 guys, and hopefully a few of them are all conference level. Fingers crossed, we see something we haven't seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah, which benefit of the transfer portal too. We could go get some dudes. Transfer portal taketh, but it can also giveth. So the NAU game rescheduled to week 8 for the Big Skies week 8, April 17th. Loss is good. I mean, I know I was a little bummed that we're not playing this week because I don't know. My take on this, right, is obviously
I'm still in here, by the way, guys.
Okay, perfect.
Video just went out.
So we'll toss it to you here then after this. But I just I wish we would have played this week. Obviously, we've heard kind of it would have been. I don't know how much we're allowed to disclose. It would have been very difficult to field a team these past 2 weeks. So I get why we're not playing this week. But now it's like, okay, sure. Hopefully we've learned our lesson, right? And we take care of freaking business, lock down, just keep our nose to the grindstone for 4 weeks and try to make our push to the FCS playoffs. That doesn't mean Southern Utah's going to do that. Southern Utah, big win last week. Maybe they're out partying and they need to cancel the next 2 weeks. Or, Idaho State, if they would have pulled off their win against Eastern, maybe they would have pulled in Idaho and been out partying. We don't get to play them. What's to say NAU at the end of the year, if they lose 3 more games and they don't care anymore, their players aren't, staying focused. So it's like, I just hate that we gave up our buffer because we don't have one now. And hopefully we have our stuff together, but only us and Cal Poly have had to reschedule. That means everybody else has their learning experience that they can take from this. Colton, what's kind of your thought on the rescheduling the April 17th over this weekend? Colton?
Well, yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm going through some technical difficulties. Just internet problems in Lewiston. I guess it's just like that here. But yeah. Thoughts on the rescheduling? Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to it. I don't know how much of a Idaho Vandals 2021 team it would have been. I kind of made that point before in a column that was like, but basically, at what point are these like not the Vandals of this year? And is that, do we just recognize that? Okay, this is how it is. We got the freshmen, whatever. We'll see how they do. We'll see what 2023's Vandals or what was supposed to be the 2023 Vandals look like. I mean, I don't know how much you can really take it. I don't know. I'm not going to go out and say don't take it seriously, because like I can't remember, somebody made this point I think on Twitter that was like, because if Idaho goes to the playoffs and looks good in the playoffs, it's not a fake season really. Like if Idaho were to go like get to the semis or something like that, for sure be an achievement. But I guess they could still reach the playoffs, and that would be something. But as of right now, is it like our full? If it's the full team, if the full team gets back, then I'll just be like, okay, like this is legitimate. Brian, you made a good point. No D2 opponent, no power conference opponent, like that, throws the stats off, and it sometimes can confuse you watching those games. How good is this team? This is just straight Big Sky on Big Sky, so that's good. I guess my thoughts on it are kind of muddled. I mean, I want to care about it, I really do, but with so much going on too at the same time, in my profession right now, because we're a small paper, so like we're dealing with all the Washington sports returning too. And like basketball's just getting over. There's a bunch of different, like I'm covering softball and then basketball and then football, and it's all over the place. But the Vandals, I don't know. 2 weeks off. There's not much to say other than like they didn't really have the roster availability, right? I mean, they don't have that, then you gotta postpone it, and that was the only other spot. 2 weeks, that's not enough time to get back. So push it to the end of the season.
Colton, just to be clear, in case some listeners are thinking like, okay, well, I know they don't have players, but why not? Is it coronavirus issues?
Oh, yeah. I think the school did say, I mean, coronavirus protocols within the Vandals program. So they announced that. That's on the record from them. And you're at this point, I mean, coronavirus isn't a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but in the sports world, it's not like a hush hush thing anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody gets it, and like schools are coming out and saying like, we got it. That's why we're shut down. So it's got to be like they've got to have too short a roster to play, because they're all in, or not all, but like I don't know, a dozen
healthy
or something.
chunk.
Apparently, there were at least 7 that were probably coronavirus because they didn't get hurt, and then they just disappeared. And they're not there, not at the game. And then I thought I saw Jermaine Jackson, Chad Bagwell. I'm like, okay, they were just injured, recovering, but I didn't see anybody else. And there's been some absences just on the roster in general that, like, I mean, there's no point in slamming it. It's no big deal. It's not a negative at all. It's like there are multiple guys who I don't think are playing this year. Who, like DJ Lee, I think he just may have opted out. Because coronavirus. I mean, he was like a rotational receiver. Yeah. Okay, he's not playing.
Daryn Nash.
Somebody told I heard that Daryn Nash. Yeah, I mean he was supposed to be maybe the best corner incoming, maybe the best corner on the team. I don't know, because these guys are fast. There's a lot of speed in the secondary, but I don't know. We won't know because he's going to come back. I guess that's what he said. His plan is to play in the fall. So that's what I'm thinking. Is like you got a chunk of people that are like, I'm not playing right now. I'll play in the fall. Maybe they affect the outcome, But can you play? How many is the cutoff? Is what I'm wondering. To be honest, that's the main thing. Like, how many? What do you guys think? Like 10 play? Like, say you have 10 players in the protocol. Is that where you cancel a game, or does it depend on who the player is? Depend on? Is that what it depends on? Or
I think Idaho can't cancel another game. I mean, at this point, if it sweeps your program again, you at least have to go out, whether it's your 2023, 2024 Vandals.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they want to make the postseason.
Yeah, and at this point, you're not a North Dakota State or a Weber, right? Where it's like, okay, maybe it bit us and it's no longer advantageous for us because we're not going to finish the season where we want to finish it. A team like Idaho that's up and coming, I don't know if I quite want to give them that title yet, but like a team that has potential, you have to utilize this free season and free practices and free games. Like, because you're too late in the season to pull like a Montana and Montana State and just cancel and find 3 teams to do a spring scrimmage on. Like, I think at this point, no matter what, whether we lose every single up and coming game, like you at least have to roll someone out there and get snaps and get reps. And that's your way of prepping for the fall. Now, maybe it's not your starters. Maybe, you lost Jermaine Jackson and you're like, all right, look, Cottrell Haywood is going to be good. Let's not throw Cottrell Haywood where he can get hurt. But
he might break some records in the program.
Yeah. Like, let's have him around for fall when he has, 11, 12, 13, 14, however long our playoffs go. If we can make them, like, let's do that. And I think that's what you have to weigh but I think it's until you lose another one, you have to go all in on all these games too. I mean, you play your best lineup, whether it's Cottrell Haywood and Nikhil Nair throwing the ball, which I heard we are really short on quarterbacks. Like, I don't know. I think Idaho is a team that really needs to take advantage of the free season, and right now is still in a good position at 1-1. So they kind of are they have to go for it, in my opinion, at least.
Okay.
Dallas, Brian?
Because you think even without the say they win a Big Sky title, is that important? Like without the Montanas, that's the thing that gets me. No Montanas. And is that a Big Sky championship?
Well, we've covered it multiple times. The last time any Montana schools won a Big Sky title was like 2012. So
I know, but they would be in Idaho's way, is what I'm saying.
I agree. And I think this year I care less about winning the Big Sky. I mean, for me, it's about the practice and the game reps and getting ready for fall, which is why I think you have to be a little overly cautious. And for me, it's playoffs. Like, that's the goal. I think that the conference should just give Weber the Big Sky title. They beat UC Davis. They're not playing us, then they're not playing Eastern. Nobody else is going to challenge them the rest of the year. Just give Weber the title now. I wish we could just give them a freebie into the playoffs and just have the rest of these teams duke it out. Because the Big Sky title, I don't think was ever in contention for us this season. Spring season probably isn't in the fall either. But I think we've got a fringe playoff shot, and I think that's what you have to go for. Because, one, you want to make the playoffs because, once again, I think those extra practices are going to help you. And the team's so young. I know that you're worrying about burning, from both ends here and playing too late into the season to where then when you turn around, you're not going to be healthy. But this isn't an established team where I don't think we should be worried about that. We should be worried about getting as much reps in as possible.
We shouldn't be worried about the season going too long at all, Chris, because, I mean, like, if we make the playoffs right now, that's a victory. I don't think anyone right now sees this as a team that's going to make a run into the semis or something like that
in the fall either. So there's no reason to stay healthy for the fall.
To try to answer both Colton's question and your initial question, Chris, I think this season is going to matter to different teams for different reasons. For Weber State, if they're the class of the conference, hey, they better show it when the conference has shrunk without a couple of the premier teams. Now, also, Chris, you're of course correct. The Montana schools have prestige, but it is a myth that the Big Sky title goes through Montana. It hasn't for about a decade.
Maybe
for a school like Idaho. For a school like Idaho, this season has to be about showing that growth is more than press releases. And by the way, we've looked pretty good overall, even though we're 1-1, having played 2 of the 3 best teams we possibly could so far. As far as the NAU game being pushed back, I mean, I'm disappointed we don't have the game right now. It means we don't have a cushion for another game to go south. But I will say, I don't mind that we got a couple weeks to, have guys become healthy for sure. It's a little disappointing that we were set up to play 3 consecutive teams that we would have been favored against and have pretty strong momentum heading into Eastern. Now, we still could have great momentum. We should be favored probably narrowly right now against Idaho State, and we probably should be favored against Southern Utah. But if we're a good team, we're going to win those 2 games. And my hope is that we just don't have a repeat of last year where the end game is versus NAU and no one's really playing for anything. And I mean, it's fun for the basketball game scores, or more than University of Idaho men's basketball game scores. But you are right in that, Chris, that there is some suspense we might lose by having that game pushed back, having Eastern as our crescendo, and that being a potential real playoff game at the end of the year if we can win out. It would be harder to end the year with more excitement.
Isn't it just almost seeming to tee itself up to where we beat Southern Utah, we beat Idaho State, we beat Eastern Washington on the red, and then somehow just slip up against NAU? That would be the most Vandal thing ever. We're already saying our praises. We're going to the playoffs, and then we go to Flagstaff and we joke every time the game after Eastern. It's like clockwork. We lose it. And it'd be NAU, who may be the worst team in the conference this year.
That's on you.
It was out there. Someone had to grab it and bring it in.
No, you put it out there. But there'll be a lot of yards though in that game. Won't that be sick?
Yeah,
there'll be so many yards.
And if there's nothing to play for at that point, that's a CJ Jordan game in my opinion, which at least makes it interesting for us to watch. But Dallas, you got any takes kind of on the rescheduling, and then we'll move on to kind of what it's like to make the playoffs.
It would have been nice if they could have fit it in this week, but realistically, most of the FBS conferences, at least the Power 5, when they were dealing with their season in the fall, they set a minimum roster of 53, and there were teams like Wazoo canceling games because they could not field 53 players. At this level, with even less players to pool from, I don't think there was any chance Idaho could have played a game this weekend. With the outbreak as bad as it seems from the outside eye that I'm using, I don't think they could have played this week. So it makes sense to reschedule it to the final week. It sucks. Everything was really set up perfectly to, nut up or shut up with Eastern as the final game of the year. And it's too bad that we're not going to see that. But I'm just hoping that we don't have what Chris just put out into the world of rattling off 3 wins and then losing to NAU because, it sucks to be a Vandal sometimes.
I'm right? Like that is totally what's probably going to happen if we could beat Eastern. Beating Eastern on its own is going to be difficult. But then if we do, I'm changing my preseason projection on this podcast. If we beat Eastern, I'm changing my preseason pick. We lose to NAU at the end of the year, and we'll see what I pick then. My preseason pick has been changed because I have the power to do such things. But talking about it, Eastern was the crescendo. It was probably our playoff playing game for both of us, having one loss. Is that even the case anymore? Because it's no secret Idaho State gave Eastern all they could handle. And Eastern, Eastern tried to do everything in their power to not win that game, but still pulled it out. Can they even beat UC Davis? And then if they lose to UC Davis, is there even a path for us whether we beat them? Because at that point, UC Davis beat Idaho and Eastern and only lost to Weber. And is anybody going to beat UC Davis? Like, who do they have left? Idaho State, Cal Poly twice, and Southern Utah and NAU? Like, they should steamroll all those teams. So I'm worried that even if we beat Eastern, if the Eastern UC Davis game became super important and we need Eastern to win it. Eastern could break our hearts right here because I don't think if they lose to UC Davis, they're not going to the playoffs no matter what. And if they lose to UC Davis, we're probably not going to the playoffs no matter what. Am I wrong there? Because I don't think a 5-1 Idaho with a 5-1 UC Davis, I just don't think there's enough at-large bids for us to sneak in. Colton?
What at the most 2 in the Big Sky? Is that what we're saying? Or they couldn't if there were
we're flirting
6-0, 5-1, 5-1. They wouldn't consider a third 5-1 Big Sky team. The committee, you don't think so?
I just think it's hard because the Missouri Valley's
it's possible,
but 8
but
or 9.
Yeah,
so that's why I think it's hard. Like
true.
If you're comparing that with like a 6-2 NDSU, that's a hard one to put a 5-1 Idaho over 6-2 NDSU.
I don't know. They might consider that though, like Idaho winning out from here 4 straight. I don't know.
That's true. That's a sell. That's a good point. Not losing in 6 weeks, a better way to sell it.
Yeah. But let's see. Well, UC Davis, I don't know. That's really tough. That's a good question.
I think, and it's
Weber
UC Davis
State
Eastern this
loss
week
is not bad at all. What's that?
No, I mean, and they look competitive against Weber. That's why I think they solidified themselves where they might be allowed to, like, maybe another slip up. Like, if they lost to Eastern, there's still a chance that they could possibly get in because they played Weber so well. And depending on how they played Eastern, like, if they lose by 1 point, a game-winning field goal, I think there's a shot UC Davis gets in over us because they also have the head-to-head. I just think, man, we got worked into a really tricky spot with that UC Davis loss. He's really trying to make, with that last week's game in their loss to Idaho, really trying to make it look like they're not a quality win anymore.
Who's UC Davis got left again, did you say?
I'll pull it up right now. So I think that they have Pauly twice. Pull it up.
Do they have ISU at all? Because who knows? Idaho State might be like, okay.
So that's true. All right, so they have Idaho at Weber, then they're home against Cal Poly, home against Idaho State, home against Eastern, and then at Cal Poly at the end of the year.
What if the Bengals just helped the Vandals out, man?
And that would be the week after we play them, right?
Yeah.
So
actually, Colton,
I don't know. That's going to be a tough game too. You can't overlook that game.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Just circle back to the Vandals, Colton. I'm curious. Also, actually, I think I'm curious about everyone's take on this. Seeing how competitive UC Davis was with Weber, they led 10-0. It was a competitive game from the first snap to the last. Did that change anyone's opinion here of how Idaho looked against Davis, considering we did have a ton of guys out, and Davis looks for real?
I mean, yeah. I feel like I'm the boring answer here because I said last week I thought UC Davis was hands down the second best team in the Big Sky. So for me, if anything, I guess, they look slightly better. I thought they would have lost by maybe a couple more points. So no, not really. I think UC Davis is the 2 seed. That's why I thought us losing last week might have been the nail in the coffin. And now I'm starting to do the math. But for me, it doesn't change anything. If anything, I think it's still a quality win for Weber. I think it's a good showing for Weber because they were able to claw back from a 10-0 lead and go 18-3 in the second half. But, I mean, if anything, I think maybe it shows maybe somebody could get Weber on a bad day, but the only problem is we ran through it. Was the Idaho State thing really Idaho State looking good, or was that just Eastern on a bad day? Mm-hmm. Is Cal Poly going to improve throughout the season and be able to get them? I don't know. That's Davis's roster. Weber's got what? Southern Utah and Idaho State and NAU left, so probably not. Like, I don't know. For me, no, it didn't change anything because I thought Davis was good. So, but I'm curious. I mean, Dallas, I don't think weren't super high on UC Davis, were you?
Oh, I was the opposite. I think UC Davis kicked the shit out of the Vandals. The score does not reflect how much of a beatdown it was. I was the one that thought UC Davis was going to win the whole time. I think UC Davis is a very good team.
Oh, so Colton, what do you think about you? So we all thought UC Davis
Idaho game? No, yeah. Idaho looked good. Idaho's a good team. No, literally, it's just they've got a lot of talent. They were like, that's so important. 9 key players, and even Cade Coffey. That's big. That's huge.
You get
10 yards.
Who wants to say after practice?
I think Prescott was good. Prescott was good too. But and I agree. I think Davis is good. Dan Hawkins is a really good coach, and that offense is a fast offense. And Gilliam, that guy is so good. Elonzo Gilliam, that guy is. I couldn't believe. Like, we were surprised up there, like, watching him. I haven't seen a guy with that kind of burst at the Kibby Dome, and like, I don't know, like, the last guy I can compare him to, Big Sky play at the Kibby Dome. That Gilliam guy really.
I don't think there's been a Big Sky running back like him.
He's going to be really good, but like, I think UC Davis is good, and yeah, I do think they won most columns as far as statistics go, and they did kind of. It seemed like they had the whole momentum of the entire second half, of course, but it was still competitive enough to where they didn't take their lead until 7:20 left in the game or something. So the fact that Idaho and 4 freshman O-linemen, like, missing Logan Floyd and Fapusa, that's huge. I mean,
Beaudry's out too.
He was running. Beaudry's running. He had some good runs too. Yeah. I actually was like, oh, I don't know, like, Idaho looks. Like, we knew they were short when we were watching the starting lineups. We were like, oh, God, that is not good. Like, they are missing several guys.
And 3 in the secondary, 3 on the line.
and competed,
which are
I
question marks.
I think it's a good loss, honestly. I like to be, I'm not usually optimistic or anything, but like I'm not always, but I am about that one. I thought good loss for Idaho. I thought if there is one, Petrino wouldn't like that.
I'd say that your reaction to the Davis game this far out should probably also be your reaction to the Eastern game, which is after Eastern. I think a lot of us, I'll put myself here after the Eastern game. I thought there was a chance that maybe we thought Idaho had made a bigger step developmentally than we did. So then losing, because I mean, it was a competitive game against UC Davis, but like we forced them to punt twice, 6 total incomplete passes the whole game. They really moved. They really had no trouble moving. I think they should have won by 20. But if UC Davis is a good team and Idaho's shorthanded, a good team should beat a team that's shorthanded who is not quite as good as them. So like my reaction is, again, like my summary of the game doesn't change, but my reaction to Idaho is I think I know better now, having seen how Davis was competitive with Weber, that Idaho is probably, if we get into the playoffs, it's luck. We're certainly above the bottom of the conference, but we're not making that jump I thought we had, because Eastern also not looking that great against Idaho State, I think gave further context to our game of if we're competitive with Eastern. Again, Eastern's a strong program, but I don't think that win vaulted us as far against Eastern. I don't think that win signified a vault as far forward as I was hopeful for, but this isn't an awful place. This team should still finish above 500, which is that's a success story relative to Vandal football in the last decade.
Yeah. This team now is better than last year and the year before.
Yeah. Eastern, though, man, like those wide receivers, I don't know what Eric Berrier did to them. I mean, both of his interceptions are deceiving if you just look at the stat line. They hit one dude square in the chest and popped up, and the other one went right through the other dude's hands into the defender was just like, whoa, and we saw it against Idaho, how many drops they had. And they also had more drops against Idaho State that just didn't result in INTs. Like, poor Berrier is doing everything in his power to extend plays and win these games. And his wide receivers, I mean, some of these aren't even difficult balls. Like, I get it if it's like you're reaching out and it hits your fingertip and it's chest. They teach you high point ball and catch it with your fingers. Like,
dude, this isn't new though, man. Eastern's receivers.
It happened to him last year.
Yeah,
it's the same core.
They're missing a couple guys.
Dude, their game against Montana last year,
and he looks bad too. Well, not as bad, but he had some drops.
Right. Their game against Montana, I still joke about this with Eastern fans from 2019. I think they dropped more balls than they scored points, and they scored 17 points that game. So yeah, that's kind of the weird thing about Eastern is they're good. They're still good. A lot of programs like Idaho would love to say, oh, they're disappointing, but we're still going to have a winning record. That's a great place for a program to be. But I don't have a problem saying that Eastern's trend line is certainly downward, which is confusing, Chris. I mean, you brought it up. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and they have a high-powered offense that should be much more high-powered if they could catch goddamn balls that are
an improved defense. I think their defense is like one of the most under-talked about things this season. I think their defense looks pretty good. And I know that will be people like, well, they just let Idaho State put up a ball. I'm like, yeah, but Vanderwall on his own looks pretty stinking good. Like, he might be the best pure passer in the entire freaking conference right now, which I know we'll get to here in a second.
And Idaho and Eastern picked him off 3 times.
Yeah. One at the end there, but I wish there was like a stat for interceptions you didn't cause and like Hail Mary interceptions. But I'm sure somewhere some nerd
true interceptions.
Like a true interception stat. Like if it hits your wide receiver in the chest, that should not count against you.
That
did your
is
job.
A receiver stat.
Yeah, the receiver should get the INT.
Interception caused by drop.
Yeah, and then the Hail Mary at the end of the game in halves, I don't think should count either, because that's like you're just throwing it up there and like 50-50 ball, it's going to be a pick. So
fake interception.
Probably more than that. They end up being interceptions or incompletions way more. But next little topic here. Oh, Colton, what's your reaction to the season thus far?
Just the football season.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm glad Big Sky. I like covering the Big Sky. I'm glad it's back. And we kind of have gone over Idaho already, and I don't know. Like it, I keep going back to just. I'm gonna I wanted to see Sacramento State this spring. That's a bummer. Like I wanted to see how they play. I really wanted to see McCaffrey in Northern Colorado. I think that would have been interesting just around the league. It's a fun little pod play type of season we've got going on, and it's just like I don't know. Let's hope that it can continue because yeah, like you said, let's cross your fingers. Let's hope that enough guys are, I guess eligible to play right now or next week. Because if they have to cancel another game, they can't. I mean, then the rest of the games would just be competing but practice games. So let's just hope that let's just hope that if they play it. I mean, as for Idaho, I don't really know a whole lot. I'll be honest about like the. I know who's good and some major key players and stuff, but I probably won't have time to like watch the conference as closely as I have in past years, just because of like how things have changed personally. But watching the Vandals, it seems like a good step, a decent step in the right direction. Obviously, O-line secondary could use some work, but that's what they said before the season. Young there, really young there, potential to be really quick there. But I don't know, when's the last time Idaho secondary blew you away?
True.
Not even, there's always the potential for quickness in the secondary. I don't know. I just enjoyed covering that team again. In the dome, it's an interesting feeling to be a little bit back. And a playoff, that would be. I can't say
playoffs.
I guess that's looking way too far. I should just stray away from. Yeah, that's looking way too far ahead. But I'm just hoping they get 3 home games in a row, then 3 away games. That's interesting as well.
Yeah. The good news is you only have 172 days until kickoff against Simon Fraser.
Oh,
how crazy is that?
Circled on that Simon Fraser game, man. Circled on the calendar.
We are less than 4 months, right? No, sorry, 6 months.
Is it
90? Yeah, call it less than 180 days. Is the math I was trying to do, thinking every month is 30 days. But call it about 6 months from kickoff, which is insane.
Yeah, no, it is. It's football's back though. I mean, I'm excited for the Wazoo game. I hope they play Wazoo.
We don't. We got moved.
About that.
I love that game. But so what they did was we kept all of our 2021 out of conference games for next year. Can't believe we're talking next year already. But normally we're talking next year right now, so why not? So we're home against Simon Fraser. We're at Indiana, which NFL schedule not released yet. Hawks play at Colts. Please, Hail Mary. September 12th. Let's have the Hawks in Indianapolis, the Vandals in Bloomington on the 11th. Then we're at Reeser. We have a week off. And then we get the amazing schedule that I was so excited to play. We don't get your Sac State, Colton. I'm sorry. But we get at UC Davis. And then after that, we're home against Portland State, at Eastern, home against Montana, home against NAU, home against Southern Utah, at Montana State, at Idaho State. And that Oregon State game used to be Wazoo. We only left the Palouse or the state of Idaho twice in this last 8 weeks of the season. If we had last year's schedule, still last year, but they just basically
they just pushed it forward.
And then they're doing after this year they're redoing it because Southern Utah's leaving. So I had somebody ask me what the 2022 schedule looked like. I was like, doesn't matter because the schedule's getting redone because the Thunderbirds are going to the WAC. But anyways, real quick here, compared to what you've seen at practice, which they've only had one public practice, I believe. But I guess your opinion on what you've heard and seen and talked about. Does 1-1 surprise you, or is this right about where you thought they'd be at this point?
1-1. Oh no, this is I'm so far I'm 2 for 2. I keep saying to people in the office. So far I was like they're going to beat Eastern and then lose to UC Davis. My original prediction was just to kind of more of like this. I'm serious about this, but at the same time, I thought it would be funny to predict that this is how they'd start 1-1, losing to UC Davis. Then they would win out until the end, and then for the playoff game on the red against Eastern, and then lose that game and miss the playoffs and go 4-2. That was my original prediction. So far they're on it, but like prediction as it they'll be competitive, they'll be good. They would have a 3-game winning streak in the middle of the year, and I don't know. It's hard, the sample size so far from what I've seen. It's not really like Beaudry. I don't really have any strong opinion on. I think he's had stretches where he's looked good, but he also just looks shaky. You don't know if that's like first game nerves or anything. It's like he's showing off. I got it, but then he's just bit off and just missing a little bit.
Get some
like,
happy feet.
He's like, I got this in, but like staring guys down sometimes. Like,
yes,
it's okay.
Like that pick
sometimes
against
expect
Eastern
that early in the season. Yeah, a lot of that running game so far has been underwhelming, but
bad.
you know, how much can you chalk? It seems like they haven't had a lot of holes, but also like you maybe expect
more carries
them to make some or more carries. That as well. There were stretches, a lot of 3 and outs where it was just like, let's throw these quick outs, and they just didn't work. The quick outs, short balls, and then incomplete. Oh, no punt. Against UC Davis, especially. They went 3 and out from, what was it, like 6 minutes left in the third to the end or something like that? Like 3 and out the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So the offense, I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm just kind of going with the position.
Yeah, I was going to say. But ranking, you brought up Beaudry. I want to say we have some surprising quarterback appearances thus far in the Big Sky season. But then again, is it really that surprising when like everybody was new? Somebody had to be good. It's not like 10 out of the 11 dudes were going to be bad, or I guess this season 7 of the 8. And there was a surprise. My pick, Jalen Hamler, which to give Brian credit, I was basically doing that just to be the contrarian. I thought Hunter Rackett was going to start as well. Blew my mind. But so Jalen Hamler played, so we were wrong. And then if, oh God, it's been so long, Davis Alexander plays. So we should have 3 dudes returning from the 2020 or 2019 season in fall. We'll see. Jalen Hamler's got to hold on to the job, but I thought he looked all right. But let's rank the new Big Sky quarterbacks. We'll go around the circle here. So we'll go Colton, Dallas, Brian. You've got Jalen Hamler. Are we really including Jalen? Even though I see you said, but new role.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
So
okay.
I threw him on there. Yeah,
Barry first.
Well, we're ranking the new guys. That's why. Should we just do strictly new dudes?
No, dude, I'd throw Hamler in there because it's wildly different. It's different when he's having to pass the way he is. Yeah, and he also doesn't have JJ Koski at NFL level.
And we're also gonna have to judge it off one game. Wow, hey, you know what? That's what the show's about. Great internet buzz,
Chris. Yeah. Just so we can have a really boring organizational talk, really quick for our listeners. Snake draft.
Yeah. Well, how do you do that with 5 people and 4 pickers?
Okay, we'll just rank them. Never mind.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I was gonna just have everybody rank them. Oh God, this is hard. I'll go Vanderwall, Bronson, Barron, Beaudry, Miller, Hamler. But God, honestly, like looking at this, there's not a guy I don't like. Like that's what's different. Like, where's Wu-T on this? Can we put Wu-T in there? I need somebody at last that I can actually be like, definitely last.
Yeah, I forgot to throw Wu-T on there. That's how bad he's been.
Because I would take any of these dudes, if I'm being honest. I mean, Justin Miller, I'm still like, let's see. Maybe with Jalen Hamler as well. But, like, I like what Vanderwall's done. I have been relatively impressed with Beaudry. Not quite where I wanted him to be, but still, as a quarterback, I think he's fine. Bronson Barron has shocked people. But, yeah, definitely Wu-T and Widener for NAU have been the bottom 2. So, both of those dudes last. But those other guys, I'd be happy with them. So, what I do, I went Vanderwall, Barron, Beaudry, Miller, Hamler.
I want to let Colton go next, just in case he. I want to see if he steals my first pick.
Okay, so, I don't know, man. Just of the newcomers, you said new Big Sky quarterbacks. Yeah, that's who I can pick from. Dude, that's really hard. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, okay, I don't know much about Weber Sky at all. I liked Rodriguez though. I liked Rodriguez against UC.
Oh, we forgot Hunter Rodriguez too.
Hunter Rodriguez. I think he's got a lot of potential to be. I mean, a lot of short balls, right? But he was on the money. It was just there was space, young DBs, but I liked Rodriguez. I don't know, Vanderwall. You took him, right, Chris? That's your guy.
Yeah.
Vanderwall's your boy. Okay. You know what? I'm just gonna go out there and I'm gonna go with Rodriguez. I mean, I think Beaudry's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've seen enough of the same quarterback for long enough stretches.
I've got controversial takes on this. Which
all right.
They're not big Beaudry people.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say no. I mean, Beaudry is. There have been absolutely great moments. There's also been rust. So, like, yeah, I mean, he's a definite in my mind. He's going to be an improvement, no question. Number one, I'd go Justin Miller, Southern Utah. 72% completion, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'll throw the asterisk. He's run the gauntlet of Northern Arizona, Idaho State, Cal Poly to accrue those stats. But it's pretty hard to complete more than 72% of your passes.
That's true.
And 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. A lot of teams are going to take that ratio. I mean, Eric Berrier doesn't have that ratio. Not that Miller's not better than Berrier, but still, as a new guy, it's harder to start out better than Justin Miller has at Southern Utah, and no one had any expectations for Southern Utah to look okay at the start of the year. After Miller, I'd probably go. Part of me wants to go with Tyler Vanderwall, and he also with his interceptions. He has gone against he went against Weber and Eastern Washington. Those are 2 real tough teams that you're going to go against as far as your first 3 games. So I'm fine putting him number 2. Then I'd say I'd put Hunter Rodriguez up there too, man. He is absolutely solid. His per game numbers aren't great, but it's because he just played Weber. And also, I guess, he played us. He doesn't have any of the cupcakes that he's walked through yet for his first 2 games. So after that, just to run through the remainders real quick, I go Bronson Barron at Weber State. Big up, miraculously, someone's an upgrade over Jake Constantine. I don't know how it's possible, but he appears to be. After that, I'd go run through real quick. Mike Beaudry, Jalen Hamler. And
you're counting Jalen Hamler. Wait.
Yeah, I'm counting Jalen Hamler because it's a new role for him.
Then I wanted Jalen Hamler.
Okay, you got it.
Never mind. That's fine.
Dallas, where are you kind of at with this? I think it's safe to say, though, real quick, sorry, Dallas, I just totally interrupted you, but does every single team on this list, minus Cal Poly, have a better quarterback now than they do? Well, we'll save it for after. Let's have Dallas rank, and then I'll pose everybody that question because I want everybody's answer.
So I think we've discussed the quarterbacks pretty extensively, so I'll just rip through the list. I'd go Vanderwall first with Miller second. That was probably the hardest ranking of these was those 2. I'd go then probably Rodriguez, Barron, Beaudry, Hamler, and whatever quarterback is playing for NAU at the bottom.
So I'm going to remove NAU.
I want that athleticism.
And I'm going to remove Hamler from Poly because he played last year. Does every single team on this list have a better quarterback now than they did last year? The Big Sky, the tricky one is going to be Hunter Rodriguez, obviously, but I feel like the entire conference took a step up in quarterback. Now, obviously, we have teams with huge question marks at quarterback, like, I don't know, Montana State, who's not playing. And don't forget, another question is, where would Davis Alexander rank above these guys? Like, above Wood-T? Like, I think all these guys are better than Davis Alexander for Portland State. So I'm like, I think it's good for the conference. I think the whole conference took a step forward in this. I'm confident Montana will get somebody in. Northern Colorado will have a McCaffrey back there, so you assume he's going to be better, even though Jacob Knipp wasn't bad. I feel like the whole conference, other than NAU, has taken a step forward.
I'd say that with UC Davis, I won't say that Rodriguez is better than Mayer, but it's not the step back a lot of people thought it'd be. It's pretty dang stable at UC Davis. Otherwise, yeah, Chris, you're right. Everyone's a step up. Last season, 2019, was kind of comedy gold for quarterbacks in the Big Sky because we had the unearned arrogance of Jake Constantine. We had Mason Petrino throwing the ball 4 yards at a time. We can go through. We had Matt Struck throwing touchdowns to the wrong team all the time. But in terms of quality, yeah, Chris, you're right. A ton of teams appear to have hit home runs with their quarterback recruits.
And you know what just happened? We just jinxed all of them. They're all going to suck next week.
Dude, sleeping on Hamler.
Yeah, let's do I don't want to do mid-season rewards just because that's going to be a little difficult. Let's do overperformers versus underperformers, and we'll, start closing down the bar here. Colton, let's start with you. Who's overperformed and who's underperformed?
Just in Big Sky right now?
Yeah.
Overperformed. UC Davis, probably. I mean, how many people, like, after last season, how many people expected that, I guess? Just the Weber game for the most part. I mean, the Idaho UC Davis game was kind of like what people might have expected. But underperformed, I don't know. I guess just after, with a small sample size, maybe, I mean, Eastern with 42 allowed in week 2. Yeah. That's against Idaho State. Maybe that's what I'd go with. I think that's who I'd go with, probably.
Yeah. Dallas?
I don't know. I'm probably just missing somebody completely.
I don't know if there's really, if I could go that broad with it. So I'm going to kind of narrow in a little bit. Overperforming and underperforming. I would say that underperforming would be the Idaho offense. I truly thought they would look better. Paul Petrino is supposed to be an offensive genius, and I don't think the Idaho offense has looked very good, to be completely honest. I know they've played some tougher teams. I would argue Eastern's defense isn't very good, so it's unfortunate that they didn't just roll up 40 points there. That's the big one for me. Overperforming, I would say UC Davis's offense, because they have an absolutely terrible quarterback, proving that he might be an okay coach. I just had to take a shot at Cody Hawkins there. That would be my overperforming, is UC Davis's offense, because I think that guy was a terrible quarterback. I'm shocked that they put up the points that they did against Idaho. And then, I mean, they only put up 12 points against Weber, but that's still more than I expected from Cody Hawkins.
Marcel?
Overperforming, honestly, I'd say Idaho State and Southern Utah, as in they both look like they have fight that I didn't think they would. Chris, you have correctly made the point that Southern Utah is 8 seconds away from being undefeated. Now, of course, we do have to throw an asterisk in. They opened the season with the most dog shit schedule of any team in the conference. So if a team should be 3-0, it's Southern Utah. But both those teams look a lot stronger than I think we thought. I mean, Idaho State closed 2019 looking like they should just quit playing football after October 19th. Southern Utah looked like they had no hope, to the point that almost all of us, and on all our different podcast shows talking about the Big Sky Conference, we had almost nothing to say about Southern Utah except they're going to keep sucking. It looks like there's hope in both those schools. Underperforming, Eastern Washington, it's just so weird because they're not bad. They're averaging 37 points a game defensively, even after giving up 40 plus points against Idaho State. They're only giving up 27.7 points per game. That's not atrocious. Eric Berrier leads the league in passing yards per game with around 400. He's completing 60% of his passes, but they're just not. I think maybe this is a me problem, or maybe this is a Big Sky fan problem. We keep thinking the team that's going to compare to 2018 is going to show up on the field in Cheney. And I just think they're not there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My overperformer, Southern Utah, I agree with you. Like you said, I mean, I say it jokingly, but they're 8 seconds away from being undefeated. And either way, like we said, we can joke about who it was against. But at the end of the day, we also thought they were going to be absolutely unequivocally the worst team. I think I should have looked at the Big Sky Power Poll. I think Cal Poly just took the spot for him for least amount of points in a week. But up until that point, nobody had faith in Southern Utah. They were constantly basically at the bottom. They were not getting any. I think only one person in our opening poll had them higher than last, and they had them at 7th. So everybody thought they're going to be last. They hung tight against NAU. They hung tight against Idaho State, and then they beat Cal Poly. Then your underperformers, I think we thought NAU might show some fight this year. They haven't. But the biggest underperformer, and it's early, and I could be totally wrong after this week, is Cal Poly. I mean, the fact that we had people in the Big Sky Podcast Network are still ranking them. Some people had them as high as 3rd or 4th. And they held constant at like 5 to 6 the whole time without even playing a game, and then they show up, and now everybody has them at last. I think that's underperforming. I was harsh on them this week. I don't know if I'm considering them last, but I don't know. I would say Cal Poly so far underperformed. But they have more time. But overperformed Southern Utah. They, like you said, they have fight, which is something everybody thought they should just roll over and not even show up to any of their games. All right. That was Around the Bar, brought to you by Hughes River Expeditions. Hughes River Expeditions. If you're looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Venture into the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States, located right here in the great state of Idaho. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of No Return, Salmon River Canyons, or the Selway. You can even go check out special trips like the one to see the Perside meteor shower, camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater hike, scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, take in history all along the river's edge, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the entire country. You just bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. Hughes River Expeditions has been vandal-owned and operated since 1976 and ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882 or check them out at hughesriver.com. Watching the TV, real quick one, boys. There's one game this week, UC Davis at Cal Poly. But before we get into it, I held myself to my promise. I tallied them up here. In first place, we have Dallas Hammer, who is 8-1. Congratulations, Dallas. You're in the lead. I am hot on your tails at 7-2. Brian is in third, being 6-3. And then Boatman, picking against the spread, is 5-4. So we're all basically within one game. Whoa, we've got one game this week. Look at that. We'll go last place first. So the first place gets the first pick. So Mr. Dallas.
I've got UC Davis winning this 45-24. I think this is going to be a bloodbath early, much like the Cal Poly SUU game was. They'll have put the game away at halftime, and then they're just going to run the ball the second half, and Cal Poly will get a couple garbage time touchdowns and make it look like it was a 3-touchdown game, but it's not going to be close.
The next up would be me, huh? Yeah, I think it's going to be UC Davis, although I expect more fight out of Cal Poly. They started to look like they were clicking there at the end. I just don't think it's going to be enough to beat UC Davis, so UC Davis. Brian?
I'm going to go UC Davis. I'm still – Cal Poly to me is still intriguing. Last year, you would never have gotten me to voluntarily throw them on the Pluto stream because of the triple option, but now I will check in to see how they're doing. I did last weekend. Another side note, just because Alonzo Gilliam for UC Davis is playing. Weird stat, if you look at the Big Sky Conference rushing leaders, no one other than UC Davis is really giving their lead running back a heavy workload. Gilliam's averaging 22 carries a game. Next closest is about 15 per game, and after that trails off pretty quick.
Yeah. Then the Alex Boatman is just on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube, or for those of you that aren't, is taking UC Davis to cover 15. I don't like that spread at all. Boatman went 1 for 2 last week. So after he bragged about making you money, would have lost you money last week. Colton, who are you taking in this game?
Dan and the boys, Aggies by 27.
We've been a real creative bunch. Dallas might have secured this thing just by picking Eastern and UC Davis correctly, because I think most of these games are chalked up to the favorites win and the non-favorites lose. Someone gets frisky with the Bengals. That could get interesting, I guess. Corner stool takes. Everyone, quick rant. No, we're at an hour. Let's keep this thing under an hour. Closing the bar. Colton, you're probably the guest that's been on here the most, but if people want to find you, how can they find you?
Twitter at Clark Trib, and then just kind of roaming around Lewiston, Moscow, surrounding areas, random sporting events, which I usually post a few times about. And then, Lewiston Tribune, just Lewiston Tribune, lmtribune.com, Lewiston Morning Tribune, I should say. But the reads are greatly appreciated. I don't know how much you guys care about like really, really random sports. Like you never know what you're gonna get like for a byline from me the next day because like I'm writing a story about a Wazoo baseball player who transferred to LC and is now one of the best players in the NAIA. That's what, and then after that, it's Wazoo women's NCAA tournament coverage. Then it's hopefully back to Vandal football. And like next weekend, hopefully I'll have a feature or something for you on who. Let me ask you guys this: what is a player, or who is a player you're interested in but don't know anything about on this year's Vandals team?
Dylan Thigpen.
Well, Beaudry's kind of the Dylan Thigpen, really? Okay.
I feel like he's been around, but I don't know anything about him.
Yes, yeah. He had a lot of bad luck with injuries early on. Yeah. He's really actually a good success story.
Also, Coleman Johnson would be a good one.
You know, has he been playing? I don't know.
No, I believe he got hurt. And so he's medically redshirting or something. Sources say. Anyways, I'm Chris Hammond. You can find me at Chris_P_Hammond. You can find the professor, Brian Marceau, at Brian Marceau. That's Marceau. You can find producer Dammer at Hammer Dallas. If you can't spell Hammer in Dallas, you graduated from Boise State. Idaho is not versus NAU next week. They're versus Southern Utah next week. So we'll hopefully be back covering some football next week for you guys against the T-Birds. Anyways, yeah, it's now time for the best band in all the land. Sound of Idaho plays out. Go Vandals.